All right, welcome back to NickTalks. Trying out a different camera orientation here. I got it. It was set up on this. I have this little part of my desk that comes up and it's sitting on, but I'm trying it down there just to see what it's like. Eventually, I'd like to get like a full. I got this little dinky tripod that it's sitting on, like a desk tripod, but I'd like to get a full one so that I can see the whole desk in the frame. But I don't have that, so we're just gonna kind of deal with it the way that it is. So, and the camera shake. If I have it on the floor, no camera shake. Probably not really that big of a deal, but. So, it is the 11th of January, 2022. And this is episode 4. So, today I want to talk about traits and personality characteristics as learnable skills rather than components that you're born with. So, this could go for things like good work ethic, maybe even intelligence, but also like kindness and empathy and anything like any characteristic that you can think of that, because maybe this is just what I am perceiving, but I kind of feel like most people believe that the parts of your personality you're either born with or you just develop them over time, or supposedly uncover parts of yourself. But I think it's partially true, but I also think that you can really define your own personality any way that you see fit. So, and I first noticed this with work ethic, because my parents were always very hardworking, and so when I was old enough to start, well, not even, when I was very young, I would be doing difficult, hard labor tasks, at home. And so I became very used to working hard and pushing myself through difficulty to accomplish physical labor tasks, specifically physical labor. So therefore, I understand how to push my body further to accomplish a goal, and so I'm very good at jobs that require physical labor. So I always thought that I was just kind of born a hardworking individual, and that certain people, like even some of my friends that aren't as hardworking in terms of like physical labor than I am, I thought that was just a trait that we were born with, but I do not believe so. I think the only reason that I possessed that skill, or possess that skill because it was given to me, and I learned that through my childhood. And so if that's true, then that means that I could learn any skill anytime. So say I have a difficulty being patient. I have issues with patience maybe. And it's hard for me to listen to other people speak for a very long time without me saying my piece, let's say. I think that it's very possible to learn how to become more patient. Well, I suppose that's kind of an easy example, because patience is something that can easily be taught and learned. But I feel like the work ethic bit is a big deal, because you can look at some people and say they are successful because they have good work ethic. But if you can develop that trait, then that doesn't separate them as far from you. If you are someone who is not used to physical labor jobs, it would be understandably very difficult to push your body to achieve difficult tasks. Maybe you're better at, using your mind. But, people kind of use that as an excuse of not being able to do things or not doing things because they believe it to be something that someone is born with, and they are not able to cultivate that skill over time or that characteristic because of that belief. But really, I think that it's much easier than you think, and as long as you apply attention to that, you can develop any skill that you want. And so that kind of leads into the train of thought that you can build yourself to be anyone that you want to be. You can become anything that you want to be, literally. Usually that's applied like for children to like, oh, you want to be an astronaut? Then you got to work really hard. You want to be a professor? Then you got to study all day and all night. But it could even be, you want to be the smartest person in the room, the fittest person in the room, the most hardworking person in the room. Whatever you want to be, you can become. And I kind of noticed this a little bit in myself and in other people. Like say when you watch a movie and there's a character that you specifically identify with or almost admire, and there are certain characteristics that maybe are not part of yourself, but that you like about that character. And then you have such an immersive experience with this movie that when you come out of the movie, you've almost adopted their personality. And, this is kind of like, yes, acting like them, but also more specific character traits, which is very interesting. So if you just intentionally did that instead of accidentally, just because of fascination, if you intentionally applied attention to ways that you would like to be, then I think it's absolutely possible and necessary, because as you go through life, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So if you want to get better, then you have to identify things that maybe you're not so good at, and instead of believing that that's just how you are, believing that you can change any aspect of yourself to a better version, all the way down to the way you laugh, or your smile, or the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. These things, you don't really think of them often as something that is changeable. The tone of your voice, as in, when you speak, the cadence that you speak, the volume, things like that, your facial features when you speak. All of this is designed. And this I know specifically because my laugh currently is completely different than when I was a kid. Partially because, one of my parents actually made fun of me a good amount about my laugh, to the point where, I just changed it. You just think about, identify a laugh that someone else has, or characteristics of a laugh, maybe a certain depth, coming more from the chest than the nose or something like that, and changing how it is and how you smile when you laugh. And it's changed multiple times. It's not something that has, I just changed once and then that's it. But identifying characteristics of other people that, hey, I think that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. And taking it a little bit, which I suppose even segues into, you are not really born as an individual. You are you. However, you're also a product of every aspect of your surroundings for your entire life. So everything that you see, hear, understand, learn, feel, become connected to, becomes part of you. And if you can either let that happen accidentally over the course of time, or you can apply intention to it, and then there's really no limit to who you can become and how deeply you can fulfill your dreams. Maybe I I don't know, like a certain movie character, and I want my entire personality to be based around them. Well, you can add it slowly over time, or all at once, but I think that's kind of cheesy, and I think people tend to notice if you're just like a character. But, you know, if there are real traits that you wish that you possessed, then you just kind of try and add that to your system. And when you pay attention and you notice that you do something the opposite of what you want to be, you just kind of swerve back. And so at least be conscious of where you're failing to be what you want and applying the effort to get back on track. And eventually you do that so many times and it just becomes automatic, part of the system, you know? So you don't even have to think about it. It becomes muscle and mind memory to where it happens completely without thought. And that's obviously the best, because then that means that you're no longer seeming to have those characteristics. You are having those characteristics, seeming versus being, which is another another topic that I do want to get into at some point, but not today. So instead of pretending to be something, you pretend until you are. So it's kind of like fake it until you make it. So, and that can be really positive. I mean, that kind of sounds a little bit like becoming something that you're not, but it can be so beneficial and can be so positive because, you know, change is inevitable. You're going to grow and change. Opinions are going to change, and characteristics, you're going to realize that there are things that you do that aren't great, things that you say, things that you are, and you're going to want to alter those things. And it can either happen naturally over time, because I believe that it will, you know, you'll become someone that you're more happy with over time, but it could even be by design, which I personally think is pretty fascinating, because that really opens up the potential to what your life could be. This is the same concept of introvert and extrovert. It turns into much more meaningless things, because of course, you know, you have a certain tendency to be and act one or the other, or a mix in different situations. But if I'm introverted and I wish that I was more popular or had more friends or could talk to this girl that I'm attracted to or whatever, you can become that slowly over time. But it takes effort, it takes attention, and you have to be willing to put in the work. And that's kind of the difficult issue, which I can also say on top of the laugh that I have done that as well. And that, you know, I was very, very much so introverted and antisocial when I was very young, and I didn't like to go outside of my small friend group. And, you know, I realized, hey, I don't want to live like this. I want to have a lot of friends. I want to get invited to parties. I want to be able to get along with anybody and make connections and meet more people and make more friends. And because it's just, you know, I can either exist in this little bubble that I've created for myself that is completely safe and I don't have to face anything scary, or I can purposefully expand that bubble, and you have so much more to experience, so much more to enjoy and learn from and love. And so, you know, I'm not saying that introversion is worse than extroversion, you know, because there are times when I don't want to spend time with others, and that's okay. But also I recognize that there are a lot of things that you can experience in either sector, because it's very important to experience time by yourself and with others. But making the change to being more outgoing is very difficult and not very easy for most people. Some people obviously just have an easier time with it somehow, but if you're more introverted, it takes a lot of effort and it can be very intimidating. But once you get going, it's so much easier. You build a momentum. So let me check my notes just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, but oh, that's kind of wild. Yeah, so I definitely have I mean, that's kind of all about the concept of traits as learnable skills. Just the fact that you can kind of manipulate your personality to be whatever you want it to be. And so you can truly become anything you want to become. And throughout your life, people are going to try and persuade you that it's okay to be who you are, which it is. But you can be better if you want to, if you choose to, and it is always more fulfilling than staying the same. So just something to think about, that nothing is holding you back. You can create your life to be whatever you want it to be, and it can start with you. Some small thing that you're not super happy about, and you just change it slowly over time, and it's good to go. But that's kind of all on that. Let me know what you think. Am I just making stuff up? Is that something that's obvious, or have you not thought about that before? Let me know, and then if you can apply it, let me know how it goes, and let me know what you changed and how you noticed and how you went about changing it, and if it's affected you positively or negatively. But I also wanted to note that as far as this channel goes, I'm gonna keep it pretty relaxed, I think, because I definitely try to dive as deep as I can into my fundamental understanding of reality and how the space that we experience with our senses exists and how it functions to the deepest depth of my understanding that I can. And it is very challenging in terms of, sometimes you start thinking you have a question that comes up and about that challenges everything that you've known so far in your life. And so a lot of times I have to kind of regain touch with what reality really is, or what I'm comfortable with reality being, so that I can still function as a human being. Because if I push too far, sometimes it's like I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit, just a little bit. And so I still gotta go to work. I still gotta talk to people. I still have to be a human being and be conscious. So I don't want to get too far. But that being said, I have pushed my limits very, very far on what I know or what I think and what my beliefs are. And at some point, I would like to discuss those topics, but not here. So if anybody knows of something similar to YouTube, maybe something more subscription based, just because, like if I had something that, you had to pay for to be on, I wouldn't want to make it very expensive, because that's like, I don't want to money gouge, but it does weed out, if you want to be there, you're paying for it. So obviously you're going to want to be there. So, people that aren't really interested in that, don't have to subscribe to that. But I have a whole list of all the topics that I want to talk about here. And then I have like a subset of my crazy man tinfoil hat, wild theories about what I think and what is possible within the realms of consciousness and reality and certain things like that. But I'm going to keep it pretty normal stuff here. Things that can be used day to day, and that, when you dive deep into, they don't have to hurt your brain too much. Not your brain, but our brain. But yeah, that's pretty much all for today. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna keep cranking these bad boys out. Of course, I'm not gonna edit them either, so pretty long form, bear with me. But if anybody has any notes, any suggestions, any questions, any concerns, anything they want to see, or changes that could be better, maybe these videos could be a little longer, maybe they could be a little shorter, maybe I could be a little bit more concise, or maybe I can broaden out a little bit, We're still in the ground phase here, so I'm open to all suggestions. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's my channel, so I'm going to kind of do whatever I want. But it's still, this is an open discussion, and I'm not going to do things that I know the people that watch this aren't going to like, which is not very many right now, but maybe someday. So, again, yeah, I mean, I'll try and read as many comments as I can as this progresses, but let me know what you think. Let me know how things are going, what you want to see, and what you think about any of these things. But with that being said, Nick out.